Right, so what we're going to do is I want you to have your path ready. So obviously you have your database and you've got a structure. By now you should hopefully have your audio connections, etc. I'm just going to run through that again with you. Then what I also want you to do is just put in about the 6 buttons for me, just for the SQL. Okay, so you can do anything you want, but I'm just going to show you 6 of the most easiest ones to just put in. Okay, so the first thing that you should have already done, hopefully by now, is you should have all your audio connections and tables ready. If you don't, you're going to put in your audio connection. So your audio connection, the only thing we're going to change here is we're going to go to where it says connection string. We're going to click on the 3 dots. We are going to build the connection string. We are going to go to the place it is selected. So in my case, I'm just going to select my database. I'm going to click OK. So sorry, it's not this one. Let me just quickly get it. Not that one. There we go. Okay, so it's going to be this database. I click open. I test connection. It's going to say successful. OK. OK. And then I want to go to login prompt and I want to make it false. Okay, that is all I'm going to do here. Then I'm going to go to my audio tables. My audio tables connection must be my audio connection 1. Okay, then I'm going to go down and I'm going to select the table name. So this one I want to use my TBL players. So I'm just going to select my TBL players and I go up, I make it active. Okay, then what I'm also going to do is I'm just going to go to my data source. My data source, I'm going to set the data set to my TBL players 1. Okay, and then I'm going to go to my DB grid and I'm basically just going to go ahead and select my data source as data source 1. Okay, that I'm going to do for every single database or I'm going to use and every table, every DB grid. Okay, so the same process applies. My TBL teams, I'm going to go down, I'm going to select the table name TBL teams, I'm going to make it active and I'm going to go to data source 2, I'm going to select my TBL teams, I'm going to go to the DB grid that's associated with it and I am going to just data source, I'm going to set it to my data source, whatever my data source was. Okay, so that is, as you can see, I'm actually using an older program just to show you that you can actually do this with anything. Obviously, you will have your database and your scenario. Okay, so what we are going to do now is, now that my connections is successful, I asked you to okay, so I basically did my connections, the screen just went off now. Okay, so in here I've got my 6 buttons. Now to be able to use SQL inside of my program, I'm going to need the following component, which is an ADO query. Okay, so you're going to input an ADO query. I'm not going to change its physical settings. I'm going to use it or change it whenever I'm going to call an SQL instruction. So for the first one, select. I want you to quickly add in the 6 buttons. So quickly add in the 6 buttons for me. Does everyone have the 6 buttons? Yes? 6 buttons. Everyone good? So what we are going to do is I'm going to basically use these buttons to use SQL with my database. Now what we are going to need to do is, I said we're going to use this ADO query and we are going to give an SQL to the ADO query and then force the data source to read its information from the ADO query, and then automatically our DB grid will get the information from the data source. Okay, so what we are going to do is I'm going to go into the first select one. Now I'm going to do something and then it's going to maybe change with you, because remember I'm using another random database I found, but it has 2 tables, so you can find something very similar. But what you can do is you can just do this. The first thing is you're going to need to go ahead and say the following. You're going to say your data source data set. Then you're going to give it a new data set. Okay, so remember I said we're going to need to go ahead and get the information from the ADO query. So I'm just going to go ahead and type in ADO query 1. So now I just force my data source to go get the information from my ADO query. Okay, after I do that, I need to now give my ADO query an SQL. But before I can do that, I need to go ahead and say my ADO query dot close. Okay, so I need to close my ADO query, and then I can give it the SQL I want to give it. So I'm just going to go ahead and say my ADO query 1 dot SQL dot text is equal to, I like to use round brackets, it just helps me focus, and now I can give the SQL. So let's say I wanted to just display everything. We can just go ahead and say select star, so select all from my TBL. Okay, so you are again gonna have another TBL. Mine is called TBL players. Okay, so you just change your TBL in there. Okay, then what you want to go ahead and do is you want to go ahead and just say ADO query 1 dot open. Okay, ADO query 1 dot open. If we play this program and we go to the select, you'll see that it's not actually going to do anything. The reason behind this is at the moment it is displaying everything. Then you click the button display everything, so what is it going to do? It's just going to display everything. Okay, so what we want to do is we can just to test if this works, go ahead and just say from the table where, now you can put in your own thing here or you can leave it as is, it doesn't matter, it's the same thing. So as long as you've got one select, it's gonna work. Okay, so we can go ahead and say select everything from your TBL players where, and now in my case I'm just gonna go ahead and give a field name, so this is player's surname equals, and then I just want to go quickly look at my design. I want to see, okay, there's a player surname that is Fivaz, so I'm gonna just say where my player surname equals, then double quotes to say it's a string, and then Fivaz. Okay, so let's see if this SQL now works. As you can see, if I click the select, it's gonna now just display that one for me. Okay, all good. Okay, so that is 3 marks. So what I want to do now is that if you look on the rubric, that's the first one. The next one I'm going to do is a complex selection query using and or like. Okay, that's why I made my button's name is complex and. So what I'm going to do for this one is I'm going to be doing a so from this, basically I already have the structure here, but I basically just copied and pasted the structure and then I just removed the SQL. So it's exactly the same thing. Okay, so from here I'm gonna go ahead, again your tables are gonna look different, but what I'm gonna do is with my table players, here my player can be a goalie or not, and then he also has a skill level. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and display all my goalies that, well, obviously where the goalkeeper is true and the skill level is greater than 5. So I want to display my best goalies. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to go into my SQL and I'm going to write the following. I'm going to do a select. Okay, select everything because I want to display all of the information of that goalie from my TBL players. Then I can say where. Now I'm going to use an and, so I know I'm going to need 2 statements. That's my statement 1, and then I've got my statement 2. Now my first statement is I need to go look if the person is a goalkeeper or not. Do you agree with me? So I'm going to go ahead and say if my goalkeeper equals true and the skills level is greater than 5. Now you can use this just to put it into your perspective of your database. So just find something where you can use multiple things. Okay, maybe if the vehicle was made in 1990 and it's a 4-door or something like that. Okay, if the learner is still or in the second year and the pass mark is above 40%, something similar. So you can go ahead, look at your database, where can you implement where there's two things that you can basically select, and then that is going to be it for this one. Okay, so the important part here is you just need an AND, A-N-D. You can use an OR, and or you can even put in like or having. I think the AND is just the easiest to just implement. Okay, great stuff. Everyone good? Okay, so moving on to the next one. In this case, I've got calculate sum. Okay, so for this SQL, what I wanted to do is I wanted to do a sum, but I'm going to change it up a bit. I'm going to do the count function. Okay, so if you use any function such as minimum, maximum, sum, average, but you need to have two of these SQLs. So the first one I have is just to do the count. I know it says sum there, but I'm going to do count. And then what you can do is, if you want to see how many learners is currently enrolled at this place of education, you can use the same basic thing. Okay, so to do the count, I'm going to say the following. I'm going to do a select because I want to obviously get information. I'm going to say select. Then I want to say count, and I'm just going to say, well, count all the information. You can go ahead and say count the first name, count the surname. I was lazy, so I just put the star there. Okay, so we count everything as our total, and then you can say total, let's say students from your TBL, and then whatever your table is called. In my case, it's going to be TBL players. So let's see if I quickly run this, if it actually works. I'm going to show you the code now again in 2 seconds. Okay, so selecting my FIVAs work. Then I said my comp and. So here you can see it shows my goalkeepers where the skills level is above 5. Okay, it doesn't have any other goalkeepers, only my above 5. Then for my calculate sum, it just tells me the total students, so the total number of people in this database is going to be 78. Okay, all good. So there's already 3, 6, 9 marks. Okay, so it's simple. I just said select, count all of the fields as the total students from my TBL players. So you can do this similarly, like I said, just to see how many people is enrolled at your place of education. Okay, that is it. Now as you can see, I'm just going in and my structure keeps on being the same. I didn't change structure, nothing. Okay, I just copied and paste from the first one because I'm lazy. Now for the next one, my calculate minimum. What I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to go ahead and just use my calculate minimum to see what is the lowest score or what is the lowest skill level of a goalkeeper. So I'm just going to go through the database with my SQL, and I'm going to find the one that is the lowest, so the minimum, and then I'm just going to basically display that. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to do the following. I'm just going to write the following SQL. Select. Okay, select the minimum. Minimum of what? Minimum of the skills level. Okay. Then we have to have an as. So as my lowest skill level. And then just from where? From my TBL, in this case, my case, it's TBL players. Now again, you can implement this into your program. Okay, where you maybe want to see the minimum requirements for maybe a subject, or you want to just see what is the minimum payment someone has made to the place, or maybe even the maximum. If the person registered, or if all of the people registered, you want to just see, okay, who paid the most. Just maybe for financial reasons, etc. Okay, so again, you can even see who got the lowest mark in the test. using the minimum function. So all of this you can implement into your databases by just swapping out my values with any field types of yours. Okay, so again, this is just minimum. So now what I've done is my calculate and sum. Unfortunately, we need 2 calculates to get that 3 marks. So I know I said it's 3, 6, 9, but the 9 I only get if I have 2 calculates. So if I've got a sum and a minimum or a average or a max or anything like that. Okay. The next one is to implement 2 tables. So I need an SQL that's going to be implementing 2 tables. Now what I have here, in my case, I've got 2 tables. The first table. Okay, I've got the 2 tables over here. Now my first table, we can see it's the players of the soccer. Okay, so I've got my player name, surname, I've got the ID number, the team name they belong to, and then the skills level and goalkeeper, etc. And then I've got another table here where you can see this is a relational database. Okay, because my team name over here relies on my team name at my TBL teams, and then I can see, okay, if my team name has a coach, the number of games they played, etc, etc, etc. So what I'm going to be doing now for my using 2 tables, I'm just going to simply go ahead and show the goalkeeper. So if it's a goalkeeper, I'm just going to show the goalkeeper's name and or maybe surname, and then I'm going to show the coach from that goalkeeper. So basically just displaying the player's surname and the coach of that player, which is a goalkeeper. Okay, everyone with me? So if we go into the 2 tables, I'm going to do the following. I'm going to go to my SQL and I'm going to write the following. Okay, I want to select, what do I want to display? I said I want the player's surname, correct? So my player's surname, I want to be displayed. Okay, what else do I want? I want the coach. So I'm just going to say comma coach. Where am I going to go find this? Well, the one is in my TBL players, the other one is in my TBL teams. So I need to list them both. I must say from my TBL players, comma, TBL teams. Now in your case, you are going to basically just swap this with your own tables and your own values. Okay, so select my player's surname, my coach from TBL players and TBL teams. And then I'm going to need a where. So where? Now, when we are using 2 tables, we are most likely going to use an AND. Okay, why? Because what links my 2 tables is going to be my team name. So in your case, you will have something that is linking your 2. Maybe it's the module that the student takes versus the model that is taught by an educator. So whatever in your case, your scenario it is going to be, basically if we go back, we just need to see where the one tables field equals the other tables field. And that is what makes it a linked table. So in this case, we are just going to go ahead and say where my TBL players dot team name is the same as my TBL teams dot team name. So just where the one team name in the one table equals to the other team name in the other team name. Then I said, okay, well that is now creating the link, but now I want to have a clause. So I said I want to show the goalkeeper. So I can just go ahead and say, and my goalkeeper equals a true. So what this will do is it's basically going to select the player's surname and the coach from the table players and the table teams where my table players is the same as the table teams at the field name of team name. So it's going to look for under 14 here and under 14 at the table teams. And then we have another condition which says and our goalkeeper needs to be true. So let's see just quickly if this works, if it runs. Okay, I'm going to just place it in. I'm going to click my two tables, and now you can see the player's surname, in this case it's Null, and the coach for that player is going to be No. Then for Skippers it's going to be Smith. Then for Phillips it's going to be Smith J. So what it did now is it found a goalkeeper, then it basically looked at what team this goalkeeper belonged to, and then it went to the TBL teams, see what team there is, match the teams that the goalkeeper belonged to, and then get the coach from that table. Okay, so now again you can use this in your own SQL with your own tables and your own databases to make this work. Okay, the key parts here, just to make it work, is you'll see that there is fields coming out of multiple tables. Okay, player surname is in my TBL players, my coach is in my TBL teams. Then you have to list both of the tables you are going to use. So TBL players, TBL teams. Then you need to say where one field in one table equals another field in the other table. So that is what's creating the link between the two. And then you can have a clause, which is maybe where the one is goalkeeper is through, or the player has more than 5 goals scored, etc, etc, etc. Okay, yeah. The last one is going to be, you'll see on the rubric, it's at least one dynamic query using a variable. Now this one is very straightforward, very easy. Okay, so what we are going to do is, I'm going to basically just ask the user to supply me with a surname, and then I'm going to write an SQL that's going to be basically just checking for that surname and then displaying the user's information. Yes, Shange. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to come into my button. Again, my structure is exactly the same, but what I'm going to do now is I'm going to create a variable that's going to ask the user with an input box, enter a surname. The user is going to enter the surname. Then I'm going to use that variable when I'm doing my SQL. Okay, so what we're going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and say my search player is equal to, I'm going to get an input box, and then from the input box it's 3 parameters separated by 2 commas. The first one is the title, so I'm just going to maybe have a search. Then the next one is instruction, please enter a player surname. There we go, and then you can leave it blank. That's just your default one. Now the user is going to type in this surname to the search player. Then I want to use it in an SQL. So with my SQL I'm going to do the following. Okay, I'm just going to type in select, because again I just want to display. I'm going to show all of the information of that player that I'm going to search for. So I'm going to say select star from my TBL players. Okay, then I want to say where. Now I'm going to compare a player surname. So I'm just going to say where the player surname equals. Now if I want to use a text, remember I'm going to be comparing a text, just like what I did here to where we said Vivas, if I can find it. It's here somewhere. Okay, it would have been just quicker just to go back, go to the select. Okay, if we are using text, we place the one we are looking for into quotes. Okay, double quotes. Right, so in this case, same thing. Okay, so where our player surname, then we have to put it in the quotes. But now I want to add in an external variable. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to close my SQL over here. Then I'm just going to add in my variable. So what is my variable? It's going to be plus, I forgot what I called it, search player. Okay, so plus search player. And then I just need to finish off my SQL. Okay, so I'm just going to add in a plus again. I'm going to open my SQL with a single quote. Then what needs to come after my text is going to be a double quote. Okay. And then I'm just going to end off my SQL. Okay, so now you will see that your player search player that the user typed in is between my 2 air quotes. And then that means we are sorted. Okay, so now we can just test if this actually does in fact work. before moving on to the next thing. Okay, so for the dynamic, let's say I want to check if Jaggers is there. So I'm just going to type in, please enter a player's surname. So I can just type in Gr12. Okay, Jaggers, and there we go. It actually just takes out Jaggers for me, display it for me. If I want to maybe show Fivaz again, I can just type in Fivaz, and it's going to return Fivaz's information for me. Okay, so altogether that's going to be 3, 6, 9, 12, 15 marks just there for the 6 buttons. Okay. Just to quickly show you where we can actually implement, or how we implement, just to do a quick refresher on code construct. So we are going to be using code construct. We need our ADO connection, our ADO table. That's basically all we need. We can add our data sources and our DB grids. That's just going to make life a bit easier to see what is going on. Okay, so for the first one, sorting records in the table. Okay, so I haven't done that one before, but let's see if there's a spare button. Okay, here's a spare button. So for this, we can just go ahead and say our ADO table. I don't think I called it TBL players. And then I think you can just go ahead and just say sort. People, so for now, just leave it as is. I haven't heard of them saying it needs to be first principle. Normally it is, but just use sort for now. Okay, otherwise you sort it the same way you would an array. Okay, then the next one is going to be search for data in a table. Okay, so searching for data in a table via code construct. Let's see, there's one. Search for a player by an ID number. So what we are going to do is we need to find out where we are going to look. So what table we're going to be using. Okay, what we are looking for, we have to go to the top of the table. Then we're going to loop through the whole table until we reach the end. Then we just compare whatever the user typed in to the ID of that player. And if it is found, then we just display the info. Otherwise, we go to the next record. So just to give you an idea, in this case, I said my SID is a user input. So the user is going to type in, he's looking for this ID. Okay, then I'm going to go to the first record of my table. Sure, sorry, excuse me, people. Okay, so we're going to go to the first record of the table. Okay, if we are at this first record, we're just going to basically be going through the whole table by using a repeat until our table.end of file. Then I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to do my comparison. So I'm going to say if my ID I'm looking for is the same as my table players in block brackets, the field I want to compare, then I just going to display all the information. Okay, if it's not found, I need to say TBL players.next, otherwise it's going to be a never ending loop and your program is just going to crash. Okay, so that is 3 marks for just searching for something. Now to insert into the database, just want to quickly see where's an add one. Okay, here we go, add a player. So what we can do is we can just say TBL players.last. Okay, so we're going to go to the last record of our table. Then I'm just going to say if I want to add to the table, I'm going to say my TBL players.insert. And now you have to basically, for each and every field in that table, you need to go give a value. So in this case, I'm just going to go ahead and say my TBL players, okay, in block brackets, which field am I working with? The first one I'm working with is my player name. Then I'm just going to input box, ask the user, enter a name. He enters a name, it gets saved into my player surname. I'm going to do that for all of the fields I have in that record. And then to save it to the database, I need to say TBL players.post. Okay, that is inserting a new record to the table. Now the next one is to delete out of the table. We can do this in 2 ways. Okay, so you can either by clicking on it in the DB grid and clicking delete. I'm just going to use another one. Is there another one? Is there another delete I can quickly show? Okay, there's not another one. I don't think so. So what I can do is I can say, where is my delete? There we go, delete record. Okay, so you can do the same thing. If you want to delete a specific person, you want to maybe ask the user who you want to delete, and then you can just basically go through the whole thing, search for it. Once you found it, you can just go ahead and say tbl players.delete. Okay. Okay, so then you just say your tbl players.delete. So it's not very far off, it's very easy. And then the next one is edit selected fields in a record. Okay, so this is the last one. Here we can see maybe change a team's coach. Let me quickly go through it. So you're just going to enter the team you want to change. Then you do the same thing as a search. You go to the first record, you repeat until you reach the end of the file of your table. You go ahead and say, okay, I want to check if the TBL at that field is equal to the one I want to change. If I found the one I want to change, I'm just going to put my table into edit mode with tbl.edit, and then I can give or ask the user for my new value. And then lastly, I just assigned a new value to the appropriate field in my table, and that is it. Okay. So again, if you do all of this I just mentioned, that is 30 marks out of the 86 already. Okay. Yes. Okay. So if you do just this, the SQL's, the code construct, that's 30 marks already. Then what I want you to do is go put comments everywhere. Okay, so you open up every single unit that you have and you put in comments everywhere. At each button you give me a comment. Okay, you just quickly explain to me what is going on here, what is going on here, what is going on here. Each and every single button, that's going to give you 4 marks. Okay, so at the moment we are sitting at 34 marks for doing that. The next one I'm going to quickly explain is putting in an exceptional feature. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly just show you also, if you want to put in a login page, we're just going to go file, we say new, we put in a form. Now to make this one appear first, we're just going to go to the project group here on the right hand side. I'm going to right click on my project. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to say view source. Now you will see this is how the computer is going to read it. It's going to play unit 2 first for me and then 3. But now unit 3 is the one I want to appear first. It's going to be my login page. So what I can do is I can just go ahead and swap these two around. Okay, so that my form 3 is displayed first, and then I just have to swap my symbols as well. So here needs to be a comma, and then at the end it needs to be a semicolon. Then what you do here, you just have to do exactly the same here inside of your application.create. So I'm going to take my form 2 and I'm going to place it after my form 3. So this forces the application to boot up form 3 first and then form 2. Then you just save. Where do you want to save it? Okay, cool. I want to save it in here. I just place it in here and there we go. Good to go. Now this is going to be my login page. Before we get to how we can use arrays and text files to log in, which is another 8 marks, I'm just going to quickly show you how we can implement a very easy exceptional feature. Okay, so what I want you all to do is the following. At your login page, just go ahead and add in a button for me. On your login page, add a button for me. And this button's caption is going to be the following. It's going to be more info. Okay, you've got the button. See how? You've got the button. If you have the button, we are going to do the following. Okay, I want you to go file. And I want you to add in another form for me. Okay, this is going to be where we are going to display a PDF. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put in a bit button. So I just type in a bit button. T-bit button. I'm just going to align it to the bottom of my page. And then I'm just going to go ahead and change the kind to a close. to a bit button close. Then go to your toolbar, type in web browser. You'll see that there's something called a T web browser. Okay, in your tool palette, type in web browser. You just drag the T web browser in for me. And then here on the left hand side, in the properties where the line one is, you'll see it says all none. Just drop it down and select client for me. So align, click on the web browser, then you click on align, and then you make it client. Okay, then you'll see it's going to be aligned to your client. And then what we are going to do is we're going to go here to events. So click on my form, click on events, and I want to go to on show. So go to the form, go to events, and go to on show. Okay, there we go. There's on show. Just missed it. Okay, I don't know why it's freaking out a bit. Okay, there we go. On show, I double click and now I can start coding here. Start doing now is I'm gonna go ahead and just go to a website. Okay, so you can do this with anything. If you have a PDF, that's gonna be like the best. But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and open up the school's website. So I'm just gonna type in, if yours is for BMW or it's for Northwest University, whatever, you just open up their website normally. Okay, you can use any PDF for now. I'll show you what we're gonna do. We're just gonna go ahead, we're gonna go print it, we're gonna say save as PDF, then we're gonna save it. It's gonna ask us where do you want to save. Now I'm gonna go ahead and save it in the same directory as what my program is. Okay, in this case I'm gonna save it as EHS. Now if you have a PDF lying around, just use that PDF. Okay, then what we can do is we can just go ahead, I can just click cancel. Sorry, you're just gonna click save, I'm just gonna click cancel because it's already there. And then I'm gonna use this vital piece of code that I want you to write with me. Type in web browser 1 dot navigate. In the brackets we are gonna say extract file path, extract file path. Then inside the brackets of extract file path I'm gonna say application dot exe name. So what that will do, it's basically just gonna see where your program is at the moment. It's gonna look for the path of it, the location, and then what we are gonna do after that, we're gonna say plus. In quotes, you're now gonna type in the name of your PDF. Okay, in this case, mine is ehs.pdf. Okay, I'm gonna show you the whole code now in 2 seconds. So web browser.navigate, extract file path, application.exe plus, and then we just have our file name or PDF's file name. Okay, that is what's going to happen when this form shows. We'll come back to this in a second. What we want to do now is I'm going to show you something else we're going to do later on with this as well. Just going to save it. It's going to ask where do you want to save this unit. We click just save, make sure it's in the right location. Okay, make sure you save it in the right location. Then we are going to go back to our login screen. Okay, this one over here. I'm going to want to code whenever I press this button, that web page or that other screen, that more info screen must appear. So I'm gonna go file, I'm gonna say use unit, I'm gonna use all the units, I'm gonna click OK. File, use units, make sure you use all the units. Then I just wanna see this one is form 4. So I'm just gonna go in my button and I'm gonna type in form 4 dot show. Okay, inside of the quotes, do you have a PDF in that file? Not yet. Okay, then just leave it blank for now. Okay, it's good. Okay, then go to your login page. Then we're just gonna double click on our button, the more info button, and then we are just gonna say form, whatever the form is, dot show. Now if we run this, you'll see the first thing that happens is my login page now appears. If I click more info, you'll see mine actually opens up now that PDF. Okay, and that is 4 marks for that exceptional feature. 1 line of code, 4 marks. Okay, what we can also do is, if you don't want to display a PDF but rather a website, then we can go back. We can just go ahead, wherever it says navigate, I can just remove everything in there and I can just type in a URL. So I can just go ahead and type in www.ehslearn.ehs.org.za. Okay, just gonna chuck that into some quotes and then it should work. Let's just quickly check. I play it again, more info. So apparently, yeah, I just misspelled the website. But what you basically just do is you find just the path. So what I did is I just opened up the website, just Control A it, copy it, go back. You can just type it in here, HTTP, it's gonna type it in nicely if you don't mess it up. There we go. Okay, HTTP, the full length of the website. And then if we run it, we can just test, make sure it does in fact work. Okay, that's my form. I click more info and there we go. That is the website of the school. Okay, so now again, if you were doing BMW or UNISA, you can just pop that same website in there.